Now, Tracy, what do you think the value of the HistoryMakers project is?
Well, I think with our new website that we're working on, where you could access live video, or not live, but video from our archives right away, right in your home, I think that's great. I think that is the way of the future. And so I think that, I don't know if you can put could put value on it. It's invaluable. It's amazing. And especially, I look at going to public school for high school here in Chicago, and we spent forever learning about the Holocaust, but maybe a week in February learning about Black history. And I think that it's just really important to have that at our fingertips and have access to it, especially in the schools.
Definitely. And can you tell me, what is your definition of who a history maker is? What is a history maker?
I think a history maker is not just someone who's lived through history and seen it and had an impact on it, but I think it's someone who's had an impact on their community and everyone who they've come in touch with and changed people's lives or changed their views of certain subjects. I think that a history maker is someone that everyone can relate to and learn from.
Okay. And lastly, can you tell us who you would like to see be a history maker in the future?
Well, looking back on my experience here, in the beginning we made phone calls to all of our web nominators, and a lot of people were nominating their sister or their pastor or just someone who's made a difference in their lives and maybe their church's lives or their family's lives. And I think those are really important people to have in our collection because I think those are people that everyone can relate to. And I think that's very important to have.
Thank you. We are here with intern Megan Kerns, and could you just state and spell your name for us first?
My name is Megan Kerns, and it's spelled Megankerns.
And firstly, could you just tell us a little bit about your academic background and where you're from?
Yeah, I'm from Bloomington, Illinois, and I got my undergrad in arts technology, which is like computer graphics, web graphics, sound design. And I'm working on my master's at University of Illinois Springfield and in communication right now.
And why did you choose to intern here? How did you come to know about the HistoryMakers?
It was kind of at the end of the semester and I got an email, but it's a digitizing project and I have a background in digitizing. So I was interested, even if I couldn't digitize, on just seeing how everything works and being able to see the background research that goes into these kinds of projects.
Okay. And what were your responsibilities here for the summer?
I started out as a research intern, and I didn't create bios or outlines. I worked with getting contact information for potential history makers. And then I also did graphics for an evening with, and I redid our media kit. And I also redid a PowerPoint that we can present to sponsors and volunteers.
Okay. And can you tell us something memorable about your experience here?
I don't know, memorable, like really interesting for me was I got to sit in on conference calls for the new National Advisory Board for Public Relations and Advertising. Mm-hmm. So being able to like talk to and listen in to like some really expert people in my field was really, really interesting for me.
Very nice. And what have you learned from this experience about yourself?
I've learned to do things that make me feel awkward and to, you know, go outside my box and like how I have to talk to people a lot more than I normally would. And I also learned how to, as an artist, communicate with another person and try to create what they want. So I would say that's what.
And what do you think the value of this project is?
For me, I'm a supporter of anything that like digitizes because it makes it more accessible and it makes it accessible to everyone and it saves history. And for oral histories, I mean, it's immensely important.
Okay. And what is your definition of a history maker?
I think a history maker is someone who impacts society and just even just everyday people. I don't think it's just famous people. It can be on a local level.
And lastly, who would you like to see be a history maker?
Since I'm from the fine arts field, I would like to see more dancers and artists and those sorts of people because we're kind of lacking and I'd like to see more.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we are here with graduate fellow Sojung Kim, and could you first just state and spell your name for us?
My last name is Kim, K-I-M, and first name is S-O-J-U-N-G.
And can you tell us a little bit about your academic background and where you come from?
I'm from South Korea, not North Korea. I've never seen any North Korean people here. I've finished my BA in Korea with the English literature. And I finished my master in Korea again, the same major, English literature, and I switched my major to education, elementary education. And I just went to the United States 3 years ago and finished my master, and then just pursuing PhD in University of Illinois in Urbana-Champaign.
Okay. And why did you choose to intern at the HistoryMakers?
Actually, after entering the U of I was looking for a graduate assistantship, and I got a position of GA in HistoryMakers, and so I've been working with Dr. Lang about this project, and he just recommended me to apply this position during the summer.
Okay.
So.
And what were your responsibilities here?
At the beginning, I researched several people, but I just switched my role to different one, like a so-called box project. It's just trying to find contact information of potential history makers, and after that I just kept focusing on the box project, and I just tried to finish 10 individuals a day, and I was just on the way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And can you tell us something memorable about your experience here?
Actually, everything is very memorable for me because actually, everything is like kind of my first experience here. You know, I never worked in the United States as like a real working field, I think I'm a only international student here. So I'm just as a person who has a different background. Everything was just very new for me. You know, I even didn't know how to use a phone, and with my limited English. And like working condition and everything was very different. You know, we are not allowed to talking during the work. During working, and like everything was just maybe I look too serious while I'm working, because that's what I learned in my country. You know, like so just trying to achieve my goal a day, it was more important, and like so I just didn't have. I just tried to work hard, and yeah, I don't know if it was successful, but anyway, yeah.
What have you learned from this experience about yourself?
About myself from this experience. I learned, like everything can be a learning for me. Like work. I think I just learned more than just simple working. I just learned like different culture, and how they work. And it was just an experience for me. It's just I think it's more than that. Just simple working, and like just it was just everything was just learning for me.
And what do you think the value of the HistoryMakers project is?
The value. I think this is a really important question, because while I'm working here, I used to think that if Korea has a similar project with this, I'm sorry about my limited English. It's hard to explain my thinking, but because I just learned, I thought like the history here and our history is kind of similar, and there are a lot of important people in Korea, like the Korean War, and like there are a lot of bad experiences. Like I don't know if you know about Korean culture, but Japan conquered Korea for 45 years, and they did a lot of like things to Korean people, and they're really old, and their generation is almost gone, So we need to listen to their story, and like why their story is important, something like that. But we don't have this kind of project, and they're just dying every day. So I felt kind of sad, and like, what if I can do similar project in Korea later, because I want to go back to Korea later, like after finishing my PhD. So so I just kind of envy, and like, yeah.
And
like that.
who is what is the definition of a history maker for
It
you?
was really, it's hard question actually, because I have a hard time to define, what is the history makers. Because I think I told to somebody once, but I think in some ways everybody can be history makers because they're like, I don't think like the history makers only, famous or popular person in the society, like Obama, like that, because if they are doing right work and